Welcome to the Abed 11 Chronicles, the most authentic podcast of the year. Join us on this emotional roller coaster as we relive the past and look ahead to the future. The Abed 11 Chronicles, 10 voices, 1 podcast, and a lifetime of stories.
Good morning, Abed 11. What's going on?
Hello. Good morning.
Man, I'm glad you guys all got in here in time today because Shady has something to do today. And the Golden Child said, make sure everybody is early to the podcast. And she was the last one to get on. But that's for another day and another story. But hope everybody's doing well today. Doing great. Yeah. You guys not talking today?
Yeah. Today.
All right, man. Well, let's check on brother number 3, Jamal. How you feeling, buddy?
I'm feeling better, brother. Just tired.
Tired?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you were in the ER for a couple of days. I mean, you went to the ER. You're in the hospital for a couple of days. What happened?
Well, I went there because my side was hurting me, my legs were hurting me, my back was hurting me. I went to the emergency room. They found my high blood pressure 240 over almost 190, and they took X-rays, CAT scans, and whatever. They found out that I need hip replacements on both of my hip, and my back is gone. So they gave me an injection shot while I was there. And they told me to go see an OPA, one of the doctors for the hips and stuff. They said bone versus bone on everything.
Bone on bone, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to get 2 surgeries, one for the hips and one for the back.
Yeah, I'm going to try to avoid the back right now. Try to get an injection in the back and just try to do the hips.
Man, what is it? How old are you now, brother?
58.
50. You still a young man to have all that going on.
I know.
Man.
I think it's a lot to do with standing on the feet and working and stuff like that. You know, it's probably over time that stuff does, because he was telling me, he said, I have people coming in here that's, 42, 43, that has the same problem.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I'm sorry you're going through that. Inshallah, we get a little hip surgery. That'll give you some relief. And maybe that's what the causing the blood pressure to go up is all the pain.
Yeah, that's what it is. They gave me medicine. They gave me morphine and Delala to take home, and some other medicine. And they gave me some new high blood pressure medicine to stay on.
Man, I know blood pressure kind of runs through the family. I mean, if we're raising the hands of how many people have high blood pressure, what do we got? How many people have high blood pressure? Todd, Jim, Joe, Faisal. How about you? How about the ladies? You guys ever get high blood pressure?
I got it, but I don't think Shadi does.
And she's the golden child. The golden child don't have any issues,
Yeah, but now after Melissa said that, I think I'll probably have it tomorrow. I'll check my blood pressure tomorrow. I'll probably have it.
Anyways, I do want to say, mashallah, that Shadi doesn't have it. Haram, I just want to say mashallah.
I mean, and to be honest, I haven't been for a checkup in over, I think it's been 1.5 years, close to 2 years. But the last time I went, no, say like a year, they checked my blood pressure and it wasn't. But I have a machine at home, and as far as I know, I don't. But
yeah,
I have to keep watching that.
Yeah, so I got out of the hospital yesterday. I do appreciate it for all my family and friends that came and called and texted me. Thank you.
Oh man, would have known you were in there earlier. Would have been in there giving you a hard time, but but I knew you went in, thought you're going to be out right away. So
I went in Tuesday and got out yesterday. I thought maybe they just checked me out in the emergency room and let me go. So.
Yeah,
we left that bill for you a little bit, Jamal. That's all.
They kept you 4 days,
buddy.
I gotta tell you though, Jamal. I mean, you're a good patient compared to Sophie.
Yeah, I know. They told me, said, are you related to Sophie Abed? I said, no. She said, oh, okay. Thank you.
Not when he was upset about his breakfast that day.
Oh, was he upset about breakfast?
Yeah,
One?
he
What
didn't
happened?
get his breakfast.
So what happened when he didn't get his breakfast, Sophie?
Ask him.
What happened, Jamal? You didn't get your breakfast?
They didn't even call me for breakfast, lunch, or dinner or nothing on my phone. And God, they said because I can't have no food because I'm doing ultrasound and doing the CAT scans and stuff like that. So they didn't feed me the whole day. So I was like, okay.
How does it feel? I didn't eat for 3 weeks.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're feeling, brother, and I'm glad you're with us this week. And we can move on to, we're in season 2, episode 2. Todd, you growing a full beard? I see, like, you haven't shaved in a few days. You okay over there?
Yeah. I'm gonna, grow it out. I'll probably shave it tomorrow.
Why are you gonna shave it for? It looks good.
It's itchy.
You know why he has a beard, right?
No,
He
why?
has gout in his fingers, so you can't shave.
Oh, that's what it is. You got gout in your fingers this week?
Definitely. I do got gout in my fingers and my elbow.
So you can't bend. That's why you can't shave.
Yeah, I would just keep it the way it is. And if your boss says anything, just tell him the truth. Like, hey, I can't. My gout in my hand, I can't shave.
He's not gonna. If I grew it out longer, he wants it. He has a beard.
Oh, it looks good. You have to have hair somewhere.
I got hair on the top of my head. Can you see it?
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome back. This is episode 2. We thought today we'd talk a little bit about real estate and our first houses, and then kind of get into an update about the real estate market, because it has changed a lot on both sides, from interest rates to the way you buy a house, and the way the commission structure has changed. So we're going to get into that a little bit at the end, but I just thought it'd be neat if we reminisce a little bit about buying our first house, or even growing up in a household where we all lived together. We had the house in Fairfax. Now this Jim's home. So Jim bought the childhood home, and we moved into the house in Spotsylvania on 26 acres. You guys remember living there? Everybody but Jim, right?
Jim used to come by and bring his dogs.
Yeah. You think he used to come and just make fun of us because we were all living in one house together?
Yeah. He used to make us support that. Look at these country folks.
Yeah. So, that was a good time in life where we almost all of us lived in that same house in Spotsylvania on 26 acres. How many bedrooms was that house? It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedroom?
I think 4. Where's the 5th?
Remember the dining room? Yeah, the dining room has a bedroom.
Yeah.
You had my parents' room. You had Sipti's room. Then you had that back bedroom on the one side and the adjoining bedroom to the other side. So it was 5.
Yeah,
I can say that probably that back bedroom is supposed to be the dining room, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my dad built on another dining room.
Yeah,
He had
yeah.
the
room and
whole
dining
thing,
room.
yeah.
dining room.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, so-
our dad built on. I don't know what your dad did, but our dad built on a dining room.
Yeah.
Behind it for the people that got married, right?
Yeah, they had the house behind it for the people who got married.
Jamal built that when he first got married.
Yeah,
Jamal built it by hand.
by hand.
We had Fozy come down from Roanoke, him and Bill. They put the kitchen cabinets up and put a bunch of stuff up, and then I had the Carter guy come in and finish everything else up. Willie Carter and Bobby.
Yeah, so that was our childhood home, and it's on 26 acres, and I remember the back room. We had bunk beds, and we all used to share that back
We
room.
had bunk beds. We had chicken coops. We had grapevines. We had a greenhouse. We had a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, as you get older, you don't appreciate this. I mean, when you're younger, you didn't appreciate what you had. As you get older, you wish you had it. What my favorite part of that house was that I wish I had now was that the room we called the barbecue room in the back. Because it was a screened in. Had the built-in grill, and it was screened in. You can have all the seating in there, and we used to go in there and have barbecues, and everybody used to sit in there, and I'm like, man, I wish I had something like that now, and because that would be real expensive now to build.
Hey, Reith, one of the things that I remember about the old house that we used to live in is the wood stove. And if you didn't put wood in before you went to sleep, you would wake up in the wintertime, the house would be super cold. So we all were responsible for putting wood in the wood stove. And were responsible for getting the wood and bringing it and putting it on the front porch as well too. Now, Rita and Joe and myself were the ones responsible for that, because Jamal and Todd tried to boss us around, and obviously Faisal and Jim didn't live with us, and Melissa and Shadia were too young. So Jamal and Todd tried to boss us around. You got to bring wood. You got to do this. You got to do that. We had to do all the chores around the house. So the three of us, Sophie was too small at the time as well too. So we did most of the heavy lifting at the house with all the chores and bringing the firewood and all that. So
I do appreciate it, Sam. Thank you for helping us out.
no problem at all. But I remember that wood stove. It would keep the house so warm. And nowadays, you don't see that anymore in any of the newer homes with the wood stoves. But it was definitely pretty cool.
Hey Sam, do you remember the garage roof?
The what is that?
The garage roof.
Yeah. So I went up there to inspect it because they said that the garage roof was leaking. So I went up there to inspect it. I think I was like 8 years old, and I accidentally fell off the roof and I broke my arm. So.
I thought you had a cape on and you were trying to fly.
Yeah.
We got different versions of that story, of that memory, brother.
He definitely had a cape on, and he said Superman, and that was it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Todd a question. Todd, do you remember when you lived in the house, or whatever we watched on the TV you guys had to watch over there? Remember, Shadia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he got married and he lived in the little house behind us.
Yeah, we used to get yelled at by you in case you forgot.
Yell at your sisters?
Yeah, because he didn't want us to watch. They wanted to watch something and we wanted to watch something. So
I remember we used to have a remote. Y'all had a remote. We would change it, and then y'all would change it back. And, that was the way it was for a long time, But, that's some of the stuff you look back on. I wish I still had that house. I wouldn't have had a house payment.
Come on, man. I don't know, because we're going to talk about first houses, Todd, because you're at that townhouse that you originally had. But I just want a couple memories from the old house. I remember playing basketball in the backyard under the light, and we didn't have a basketball hoop, so we took a milk crate and we cut the bottom of it and we mounted it up there, and that's how we played basketball.
Yeah.
So
remember that, and it was my dad next to my dad's light, and by his room the light was, and he would get mad and open that back door and scream at us because we'd be playing late, because I was, Sam said he was doing the chores. Really, Sam was asleep. I'd be doing the chores, feeding the dogs, taking the wood, and Sam's being knocked out on TV.
Oh boy.
Chores, and then we'd go play basketball. My dad would open the window or the door and scream at us because it was late. We'd play late.
No, well, we'll get it.
Yeah, one thing, something you guys were all into that I never got into was the wrestling, watching the wrestling. I just never could get into that. I don't know why. I just wasn't a wrestling guy, where I could watch the stuff. There, you guys love to watch the wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, Rita and I were tag team champions. We used to, at the store, we used to take the beer boxes and break them down and make them into wrestling belts. And it was always me, Rita and I versus Todd and JoJo. And we used to beat them all the time. So we used to beat me up.
Well, you talk about wrestling, Jim. It was kind of neat because it's not like it was today where it was 2 hours long, 3 hours long. It was an hour long. And at the end, there was the last show on TV for the night. And it was on, I think, Saturday nights. And then it's like, we'll see you next week, right in the middle of the best part. And then the TV would just cut off. So, but.
No cable. It was all antenna.
All antenna, yep.
Yeah, all antenna. And we have to, and then the TV would go, and the Star Spangled Banner used to come on. And then the TV would just go off air. And then we all argue who's going to turn the TV off because there was no remote at that time. So.
Who did we catch trying to look at a squiggly line with the porn? You used to watch the porn with the squiggly line.
Oh, I don't know.
Was that somebody?
I don't know. Who are you going to call out on that? I don't know. Sophie's trying to start trouble over here about driving trucks in the field. Did you ever let Reed drive your truck in the field?
So I'll tell you guys a quick story about Reed. So we used to do side jobs, and with some of the customers in the store. So like dig ditches and do bale hay and all that. So Reith would work for a couple of days, and then he would leave, and I would continue to work. So I saved up money and I bought a truck. So I didn't have a license, but I drove a truck in the field because we had 26 acres. So Reith got his license, and he thought that truck was his truck. But it wasn't his truck.
Hey,
so,
hold on a second. Go ahead.
So Reith went and
let's get up and go, brother.
Reith went and got the keys to the truck and started driving it in the field, and I didn't like it. So I chased him in the field, and him and we battled it out, and I drove my truck back, and I left him in the field.
Yeah, you left me in the field because you tried to run me over with your truck. That's how you left me in the field, brother.
I left him in the field, and then when my dad found out about it, he beat both of us up. So
I'll be right back, guys. Go ahead.
All right, thanks, brother. Thanks.
We're not live.
We're not live or anything like that. Thanks. But kind of speaking of that was a good old days. We all lived together. Awesome. We all eventually kind of moved out, bought our own places, and and the kind of what we did. So I'm gonna start on my screen here. What I see. So I see Sam first on my screen in the top right hand corner. Sam, can you tell us about the first house you bought? Because you bought your first house before you were married or anything like that, and how much it cost you, and do you wish you still had it, and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I graduated from college in 1998, moved back to the Fredericksburg area. And then in 2000, I bought a townhouse off of 208 Ballantrae subdivision. I paid $76,500 for it at the time in 2000. Really nice townhouse. It was 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. It was nice. So I lived there by myself, and then Jojo asked me if he could move in. So I said, sure, come on, move in. So he moved in. Then shortly after that, Sophie moved in. So now 3 bedrooms, and all 3 bedrooms were occupied. And then one day Sophie came and he told me, he said, hey, look, I have a friend that's going through a divorce and he needs a place to stay. Can he rent out the couch downstairs? I said, yeah, let's just make it a bachelor pad, right? I said, but he can't use my bathroom, so he has to use your bathrooms because I had a master bath in the master bedroom. So that was my first house. So I kept that house from 2000, and then I sold it in 2002, 2003. I got married 2002, so we lived in the house for a little bit. And then Rita called me one day. He said, hey, look, Nahad and I are looking at building a house, and I found a subdivision off Gordon Road, Salem Fields. Do you want to build a house as well, too? I said, sure, let's go. So him and I went, we talked to the lady. So I signed a contract on the house to build a house in Salem Fields. So I sold my townhouse 2003. I sold it at the time for $118,000, for sale by owner. I put the ad in the newspaper, on Friday, and by Saturday mid-afternoon it was sold. Wow. So we moved in, built a house. So I did move in with my parents for about 4 months while my house.
Oh, yeah. Your wife loved that, didn't she?
Yep, she loved that. We had a newborn baby, so we moved in with my parents for about 4 months while my house was being finished. So we moved into.
Shadia, you love that too, didn't you?
Yep, Shadia got the babysit. Yasmin.
I got to spend quality time with Yasmin.
Yeah,
man.
So then we moved in November of 2003 in our new house.
Yeah.
And we stayed in that house from 2003 to 2017. We were in that house. And then we used to walk the neighborhood, Salem Fields, my wife and I. So we kept walking by like the street right up from us where we lived. And I told Maria, I said, that house looks like it's empty. it was a pretty big house, and it was sitting empty. So I called Reith up, because Reith, does real estate. And I said, hey, can you check this house out for me? He said it was bought by an investor, and they're going to put it up. Investor bought it at an auction, so they're redoing it. So we made a deal to buy that house in 2018. We closed on that house. So the current house that I'm in, I've been in since 2018. So it's been 6 years we've been here. So
yeah. So when you had that first house, do you regret selling that first house, that townhouse you had, and you paid what,
76,000.
If you can go back in time, you would keep that. You would have.
I mean, if I could go back in time, I would do a lot of things a little different. And real estate is one of them. And you don't think about it. I mean, we could go back to our father's day when he lived in Boston, and he owned a duplex in Boston, right? If he would have kept that, things would be a lot different now. So we don't know what we don't know, especially then. If I had to do it all over again, I would have kept my townhouse. I would have kept my other house. But when I did sell my house, in 2017, when I sold my house, I made $100,000 off of that house, and I put it on my current house, now. So now the housing market is totally different than it was, and it changes, right? People buy at the peak, or people buy at the crash. It all depends. Timing is everything in real estate.
Yeah. How about you, Melissa? You're next on my screen here. Tell us about buying your first house and how that went, and would you buy, and how much you spent, and all that kind of good stuff.
I bought my first house after I got married. So I got married in 2001. I think it was 2002. I didn't live here. I lived in Cleveland. The house, it was $100,000. It was three bedrooms and 2 full baths. Like they call it like a cottage, I think is what it's called. It was unfinished. It was unfinished basement, but then we kind of finished it, put a little living room and dining room down there. And then in 2005, I moved back here, lived with my parents for a little bit, but I was still making a payment in the house there, even though nobody was living there. But then I ended up selling it. I didn't make no money off of it. I actually lost about $15,000 had to pay out of my pocket just to sell it. And I lived with my parents for a little bit, then rented, and then I bought the house I'm living in now in 2013.
In 2013, so you've been in that house ever since. But when you're in Cleveland, it shows you how the market is. You spent $100,000, which is not, think about it, not a lot for a house, but the market had changed so much in that couple of years that it actually went the opposite way in that area. So do you think Cleveland's still like that, or has prices gone up?
No, I mean, in the area I lived in, I have a friend that her sister lives there, and she said that she ended up selling her house for like $40,000 just to get rid of it, because the area was getting really bad, a lot of crime and stuff like that. So, I guess it's a good thing that we moved. There's good areas in Cleveland, but not just in the area. The area I lived in, I don't think it is the way it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's the thing. I'm in different areas, and I always watch those shows like House Hunters and different areas, and what you get, how much you get for a house, and what you get for your house, when you sell or you buy. So on the screen, I got Joe. Tell us about your first bachelor pad that you bought.
My first one was on Larch Street.
Yeah.
It was. I think I was living with my parents at the time, and I was driving by. I think Jamal lived on the same street. Driving by the house, and it was for sale by owner. I think it was just a sign in there. So I called the guy up, and the guy was like, I think it was handed down from his family, and he was asking $125 for it. It was a split foyer.
It was like a tri-level, wasn't it?
Yeah, tri-level. So it was maybe, I think, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, big backyard. It was a nice house. So I ended up buying it from him for $125, really with a little bit of money down back then. We stayed in there. I get a phone call from Sophie. Hey, think I can move in? I said, yeah, no problem. Come on in. So we lived there for a little bit. Then a couple months later, Sophie said, hey, my friend's going through some hard time.
All your friends go through hard times.
Can you move them in? So we moved them in. So it was three of us stayed there. So it was nice. I think I stayed there. It was 2003. I bought it, or 2002. So stayed there for a couple of years. And in 2004, I sold it. And the market was hot back then, so I sold it for $210.
Wow!
So I made it almost $100,000 after
in a couple of years.
In a couple of years, which I should have kept it. I should have stayed there, but then I moved back with my parents, and then I bought the house in Salem Field.
The villa,
The villa.
Yeah, you kept that for a long time. Became a rental property.
And I moved out of the area by that time, so we rented it out for the longest time. But yeah, I wish I would have kept it because it was so easy to buy it.
Yeah, you and Sophie seem to live in a lot of bachelor pads back in the day.
That was the life.
That was the life, huh? You go back to that life, wouldn't you?
I'm already back to it.
You're back to it?
Back to it.
Hey, Jim, I see you next on my screen. I know you're going to talk a little bit about the real estate market. You want to talk about it now and what's changed in the real estate market and what, and what to expect?
Reed, what happened? Reed, what happened to you and Sophie? Y'all are next.
Oh, well, I will come back. I went back on my screen, but I'll get to Sophie in a second.
So, let me just talk about the real estate market. The NAR got sued by a class action suit against them. The suit was that the seller does not have to pay the buyer's commission. That was the suit, and they were going to sue for billions of dollars, not just millions, billions of dollars, and they settled on like $500 million. So what happened? This had to be approved by the DOJ, by the government, and they finally settled on it. And what it really means is that your seller does not have to pay the buyer's commission. So when you go look for a house to buy, you will have to sign an agreement with your agent saying that you're going to pay him that commission. Either comes directly from the buyer or it will come from a negotiation, and that if you're able to negotiate with a buyer. But you cannot show anyone a house as a buyer's agent without having them sign that agreement. Because if they go see a house and they know they've got to pay you the commission, they'll just go straight to the agent and buy the house from him. So in the new contracts we have, it requires us, and then we don't put anything in the MLS. So, for example, in the MLS, we used to put the commission, like the buyer's commission, seller's commission. We no longer do that. So let me tell you how I think this affects the people. If you're a first-time homeowner and you're barely scraping by, and the mortgage rates are so high right now, I mean, they're still high. They're 6.5% or something was the last sheet that I saw. You really don't have a lot of money, and what's going to happen is if you can't negotiate that settlement for the buyer's commission, then you're going to pay an additional $15,000 to $25,000 on an average house, in addition to whatever closing costs you have. So the new candidate, Kamala Harris, has promised a $25,000 stipend for any new homeowners that want to buy a house, because she knows that this will kind of fall back on them eventually. So it's really bad for agents. Now, let me tell you, a lot of agents like me, I'm a buyer's agent. I promise you, the houses that I help people buy on the first-time homeowners, I help them all the way through, even giving credit for them from my commission to help them buy their house. And now there's that ability is gone. I mean, we don't really have anything to it. So I really feel like it's going to thin out a lot. A lot of the agents, especially the new agents, are not going to be able to afford to live as a realtor. I mean, we have a lot of expenses. We pay Our association fees is close to $700. We pay our office fees, and we pay the key fees, and then we pay the MLS $174 every quarter, which is a lot of money. I mean, think about it. You're like $3,000 just in overhead that you're going to have to pay ahead of time, not including the gas and the expense that you are taking it. So I'm in the process of listing a house right now for an agent, and I'm going through the new forms, and it's going to be very difficult for people to buy a house. So we have now, what we do is we have somebody. It's called unrepresented buyer, which is a very, I'm telling you right now, as a buyer's agent, when I go and show a house, and that client of mine wants to buy it, I'm with them all the way to close it. I guide them through the home inspection. Home inspection is the biggest part of the buy. Make sure that you're buying a house that's not going to have problems for you. I have probably one of the best inspectors that will help you inspect the house, and then I help you through the finance, and I make sure that you don't get scammed or whatever through the finances. So I have good finance people that I help get you financed. And then we get to the close, and I make sure I look over your. And believe me, I've had. I'm like pretty much like 50-50 sometimes, where I found errors in the Alta or the HUD. Where for example, I know what my client has to pay. I know what they have to pay, and I go over that with my client. So not having a buyer's agent is horrible for the buyer. They're going to be at the mercy of the seller agent, which means that you go in unrepresented and you have no one to help you out through this.
Yeah,
So,
but the whole all for years you would go in, and if you listed a house and you listed a house for me, you would say, "Hey, I'm gonna charge you 6% commission. 3 would go to me as the selling agent. 3 would go to the buying agent." But for years, the seller always assumed that they had to pay the buyer's commission because that's just the way the market was. They told people, but really, all these years, the seller never really had to never had to pay the buyer's commission, right?
right. So it's the fact that um, it was implied. So it wasn't, when you sign an agreement, a listing agreement, you're putting it on there yourself. Example, although they signed off on it, they weren't aware that they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to uh, pay the commission for the buyers, but it was implied. I guess that's probably the best word. But you
Yeah.
signed off on it on a listed agreement. You sign off on what percentage that you're going to give the broker, and then that broker is going to give X amount of percentage to the buyer,
Yeah.
to the buyer's agent. So that's kind
Well,
of how it will work. Now you when I was working on that sheet, you can, for example, let's just say that you have an unrepresented buyer. Let's just say a buyer comes in, looks at a open house, and says to you, "Hey, I want to buy this house, without an agent. I want to buy it through you." Well, then you can now you in the agreement you can talk to the seller prior to this, prior to you showing the house or putting the house on the market, and say, "Hey, listen, if we get an unrepresented buyer, I'd like to charge you an extra 1%, just for example." So you would make 4% on that deal. So it's more going to be for the seller's agent than it is going to be for the buyer's agent.
well, I mean, I kind of look at it in a different way too, Jim. If I'm selling your house and I come to you, I say, "Hey, Jim, I'm going to sell your house, and I'm going to charge you 3%." And back in the day, we would charge you 6% because 3 would go to the buyer, 3 would go to the seller. But I'm going to charge you 3%. When somebody brings a buyer, they're going to try to negotiate their part of the commission with the selling people. If I'm a buying agent and I want to have my people buy that house, I'm going to negotiate my own commission, and I'm going to try to maybe that's how I'm going to win the deal. Instead of saying, hey, I want 3%, I may come in and say I want 2.5% or I want 2%, depending on what other contracts are on that property. Yeah. And now I can help my buyer buy a house by discounting my commission.
Okay, just understand one thing. You're not allowed to show now. This is like I said, I've been to these meetings, I've been to these classes. You're not allowed to show that buyer that house without a buyer's agreement ahead of time stating that you're going to get that commission. 3% commission is what they told us. So you've got to go in there and try to negotiate that because your buyer's liable for that 3%. Okay, I'm just telling you ahead of time.
You could still negotiate that though with the selling agent and his client.
But think about your buyer.
So it doesn't have to come from the buyer. It doesn't have to come from your buyer.
Yeah, I know. But think about the buyer who's going to sign that agreement, knowing that he might have to pay $20,000. You know what I'm saying, to his agent. I'm just giving you an example. What it is.
There's a lot of scenarios.
Yeah, there's a lot of scenarios, and this is what they told us. They said the market is pretty much going to dictate this because if people are putting their houses on sale, for sale, and no one is showing their house, then there's going to be issue, right? And like I said, I'm not going to show a house without having a buyer's agreement because that's our broker said that we could get in trouble, that we would be liable for the commission. So
yeah, well, you're not going to show a house knowing you're not going to get paid. I mean, right. And then it's going to be the market's going to dictate it. So
the market's going to dictate it. But I'm just saying, that my response is that first-time homeowners are going to have a very difficult time buying a house. I mean, they really are. I think about how long you negotiate with a buyer for your client to get the concessions and get the just the subsidies for whatever and try and get the house at a marketable price.
Yeah.
But anyway, just to tell you, the first house I bought, I was in 1986. I was 22 years old. I think it's going to be 23, and I bought it for $65,000. Back then, we had what they call the gram. We could deduct whatever interest you had off your credit card, your car. I mean, it was a big deal back in the day. So the interest rate was very high. It was almost like 14% for the house, and it was $65,000. It was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath Rambler in Stafford, and the points were really high. Our points were like 3 or 4%. The buying points were 3 or 4%. And then we had to kind of reduce it. But, I mean, we were able to negotiate it down where each of the agents would pay 1%, and we were able to buy that house. But anyways, we've had to buy basically on where we moved to or whatever we went to. But I always had what's a good way to say this? I always had good agents that helped me out, and and it was really a very good learning experience for me as a base for whatever career I picked in the future.
Yeah. Well, good, man. I know the market always changes and the market always dictates stuff, because I just remember years ago when the seller was paying people's closing costs as well. Now nobody really pays closing costs.
Right.
So it just keeps changing. But all right, Jamal, tell us about your first house and what you bought, where you bought it, and how long you kept it.
Yeah, so y'all got time for me to tell you how many houses I had, or just
No, we don't want to know how many houses you had.
Car.
Don't matter. Yeah, would you have more houses or more cars?
about the same, brother. So the first house I bought was in Roanoke, Virginia. I think it was in 91, right, Jim?
Yeah.
91. Yeah, I paid $47,000 for it. I think something like that. It was a 1, 2, 3, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. There was a garage that was fixed into a living room, just like how our parents' house is now, and it had a full basement, but it wasn't finished. And I lived there, and then I moved back. So I was living in Roanoke and working there, and then I moved back toward Fredericksburg area, and I sold the house back to the same guy, the realtor that I bought it from. I didn't make nothing off it. I just gave it back to him because the house market back then wasn't really anything trying to sell. You know what I'm saying? So I got rid of the payment on the house that way. So, and then I moved back to Spotsylvania County and stuff like that, and bought a few other houses after that. But I don't want to tell you about all the houses I bought because then we'll be here all day.
No,
So
but now the house you're in, I mean, you've been in that house for how long?
since 2013.
That's a long time, brother. I mean, people don't stay in their houses that long. So 2013, I mean, you're going on, 11 years. So that's good.
Yeah. Well, the best house that I bought, I think for the money wise, and I got scammed by a real estate guy, was my townhouse, and Garfield behind the dealership of Stafford Dodge. Real nice townhouse. I bought it cheap for $48,000. And then I said, the house is getting a little small, so I want to get something bigger. And I don't know if y'all heard of deed of trust before. Something that what happens is that he gives me some money now to put down on my other house that I bought in Oak Grove Terrace, and he would take over the payments, and he has so many years to buy it from me. And if he ever sells it, wherever sell it, we split the profit. I got screwed out of that, so I should have kept that house. I should have never even sold it. I should have just, but I needed the money, extra money to put down on the house that I bought in Oak Grove. I paid 89,000 for that house in Oak Grove. It was a split foyer, and I was stupid for sell either one of them houses.
Yeah,
So
I know, brother. Sometimes we just don't know, until I think everybody would probably have kept the house and still have multiple houses if we knew what we knew now. So.
Hey George, just real quick question. So out of all of us, you've obviously bought and sold the most houses. What is that number? You don't have to go through every single house, but what is that number? How many houses have you?
8.
8 houses.
Yeah. So eight houses that I bought and sold or got, don't have no more. 8, right about 8.
So out of curiosity, how did you get screwed out of that deal? Did he never sell it to give you your profit, or
Well, no,
what
so
happened?
he gave me $10,000 to put down in the other house, and the deal was when he had so many years, he was still making the payments, but the the mortgage and everything was still in my name, but we did like a title thing where it'd be in their name too, something like that at the courthouse. And then when he sold the house, he sold it for 170. I was supposed to get some money out of that, but he sold it. He told me, oh, he had to do a lot of repairs on the house. He had to put a roof on it. He had to fix this. He had to do that. And he deducted all this stuff. And he says, really, we didn't make no money on it. I said, no, you bought the house from me. Yeah, when we sold the house, the house was worth 62,000, and you're supposed to, whatever the house was sold at, the profit was supposed to split it, but it never happened.
He's not with us anymore.
Yeah, so.
All right. Hey, Faisal.
What's up? What's up?
You with us now?
Yeah, and I apologize. These people, they make appointments, and like that guy that I was dealing with the U-Haul was supposed to be here at 9 o'clock. And Angela was here waiting for him till like 10:30, and he left. So then they show up, and you got to do their U-Haul reservation, and then his card wouldn't go through. It was declined. So then, the other guy had to use his card. It was $449 for the U-Haul rental. So the guy that was with him, he really didn't want to, but he used his card. So it's aggravating because it takes a long time. And if they would have been here when they were supposed to have been here, then they wouldn't have been in my way, you know. And,
I know, but that's business these days. You know what I mean?
these people, you know, they brought a U-Haul back. They weren't that much trouble, you know. I didn't even check it in. I just took the key from them. And I figured I'd check it in after we finished. But yeah.
You remember buying your first house, brother?
Yeah, let me tell you. I got married in '85, but I bought my first house in November of '84. All right, so we were looking for something cheap. You know, we didn't have a lot of money. Yeah, I didn't have my parents' support. So
There we go.
Just don't be negative. Just talk about your first house space.
So anyhow, I found a trailer on 5 acres in Burr Hill, Virginia. So I went to the bank and they said, you got to have 10,000 down. We'll finance you. I said, all right. I said, I got 10,000 down. So we did the whole mortgage thing and I got financed and everything. And November 4th of 1984, they gave me the keys. You know, we finished, you know. And we lived there, you know, we got married in January of '85. And, you know, I moved in right away. You know, I moved in '84 as soon as I bought it. And then we stayed there. But anyhow, let me tell you, it was only $39,000. So that was a good thing. And it came fully furnished. And it was like a brand new trailer, you know. It was a 70-foot by 14-foot mobile home. It had a workshop, and it was landscaped nice. Miss Henrich, her husband died shoveling snow, so she sold it to me and moved in with her daughter in Manassas. So anyhow, I had a $178 payment. Can you imagine that?
No, you know? Man.
And so we're like, you know, I put the 10,000 down, and I showed my dad, you know, he was like, how'd you get the 10,000? I said, you know, I had saved it up because I was working and 2 jobs at the time, you know. And so we stayed there till 1990 when I built my other house. And really, I did good. I sold it for $69,000, you know, but I should have kept it, but you know, it is what it is. You know, you look at that, you're going to get $40,000, you know, $45,000 to put towards your new house, you know, to build your house. So, but it was nice. It was, you know, exactly what we needed at the time. You know, and then, you know, I built that house over there on Grassy Gold Mine on Jeb Stewart Drive. Started building it in 1989 and finished it in 1990, which I still have it, you know. And then, you know, that house originally was $150,000 for the land and building everything. I mean, I know we did a lot of work ourselves, but everything I spent with the land, the well, the septic, and everything, $150,000. Just imagine if I had just kept that $150,000. You know, you do stuff, and you look back, you know, years later and say, "Damn, you know, that was a 400 at that time was $400 some dollar payment." You know, Dominion Bank. I don't know if you all remember them. She gave me the mortgage for that, the construction mortgage loan, and then turned it over to a regular mortgage once I finished it. But you know, the market is different. It depends on where you live. You know, that house that I still have, you know, I rent it out, but you know, one day I might sell it. It might be my retirement money.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thing about it is, you have tons of equity in that house, and it's definitely something that you're renting out. Because how many rental properties you have now where you live?
Oh, I got 3 here, and
Yeah.
they it's, and to be honest with you, like the one house I only paid $25,000 for, and
Yeah, where you live now, that the market's a little different than here in Fredericksburg, right?
Right. I mean, it's $800 a month in rent, and then we have the farm that me and Nadja bought together. It has a log house on it, and we get $800 a month for that, and then the house in Orange that I rent, and then the house I live in, I only paid $100,000 for it. So I'm more like on the cheaper side when it comes to houses. I'm not going to go spend. We spent more money, $50,000 at the land just for the well and septic. That's more than I bought the 2 houses for.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Everything changes, and all depends on where you live. And for the house you paid $100,000, a log cabin on 10 acres, in Fredericksburg, it would at least be a $300,000 plus house. So, so really all depends on where you live and what amenities and what what things you have around you too. So, so yeah, you're in a good spot, brother.
Yeah. Can I just give you one advice, brother? So if you sell your house in Orange and you're renting that house, you're going to have to pay the depreciation for all those years. My suggestion would be if you moved into the house for 2 years, and then you can claim the money. You and your wife get, I think, $500,000 to tax free. But I would talk to my accountant first before you do that, because laws change every year. But just so that you know that if you sell your house now as a rental and there was an investment, now you sell it, you'll have to pay the depreciation on it for all the years that you've taken off the depreciation. Even if you didn't, even if you never put it down as a rental.
And then let me tell you the 2 sides to that story, and I'm gonna let y'all move on. Jim, my address is still Jeb Stewart Drive.
Well, don't put yourself in any kind of
That's okay.
You don't have to tell us anything. That's okay, brother. Because you.
Yeah. I mean, I know what you're saying.
All right, so we got a few minutes left. We got a couple more people to get to. Shadia, tell us about your first house and how much you paid and all that good stuff.
So my first and only house is the house that I'm living in now. I bought it, I think like 2 years after I got married in 2011. And we paid about $177. We're still in it. I will tell you, it's a nice house, but we are outgrowing it. And I always think back when we were looking at houses, there was a house that we really liked and it was like $20,000 more. And at that time, we're like, wow, $20,000 is a lot. Like we can't push ourselves to that extent. But just for future home buyers to think about, really $20,000 is not that much in your payment. So, that house, when I think about it, even though I love my house and and God chose this house for me, I think about it, I'm like, man, if I would have paid $20,000, then we would never have to think about moving because it would have been big enough and everything like that. But back then, we were just married. We didn't have kids yet, anything like that. So we're like, okay, this house is good for us and everything. So we bought it for $177. We put a nice down payment. So we have probably one of the lowest mortgage. I'm down with Faisal. Our mortgage is not that bad. And, where my kids grew up and everything like that. We do have which is very unique for this area, because when we looked at houses in this area, a lot of the houses were like this. And we have an unfinished upstairs. And the way our real estate agent had explained it to us at the time is that a lot of these houses were made to make sure they're affordable for families to come in. And when they had that extra money, they could finish it. So I have stairs. I go upstairs that look like I have upstairs, but then when you walk upstairs, there's not much up there. So we just kind of use it for storage. Yeah, so that's my first house and my only house.
Well, cool. And then if you ever, I know you've, because I mean, it's not just the real estate market; it's also construction market. You guys looked into finishing that upstairs because you can get really 2 bedrooms, a bathroom up there. I mean, it's expensive to finish that area.
Yeah, so it's kind of our fault because when we first moved in, we got some estimates, and the estimates were like 30,000 and 50,000 to finish it. It's about 1,400 square feet. It would be a living room, 2 bedrooms, and a bathroom. And we were like, no, we can't do it right now. Like, we're gonna have to wait. So then after I had both of my kids, we're like, okay, now they need like a game room and an extra playroom and all this stuff. So let's get another estimate. So we got an estimate about a year and a half ago, and now the estimate was 117,000.
Yeah, I know it's a big difference, but you're in North Carolina, and it's a nice area, and I know you've been kind of like semi house hunting and things like that. So, but hopefully you find something you like, and if you like where you're at, keep it, and keep looking into finishing because prices have come down a little bit in construction since a year and a half ago. So it might be worth looking at again, doing that and seeing what it would cost you to finish that upstairs. And that way you wouldn't have to buy another house. Because if you spend $100,000 finishing your upstairs, but you go buy a house, you're going to probably spend $200,000 more to get what you need. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we definitely have to look at that. It was, we had talked to our real estate agent that originally sold us our house, and she gave us that guy's number and recommended him. He was really nice. He knew what he was talking about. But once he gave us that estimate, we were just like, wow, 117,000. Like, should we save it and just buy our dream house in the future? Are we going to get our money recouped if we did spend the 117,000 and then sold our house? Are we going to get that 117,000 back, or would we be better off selling it like this? So it's a lot of what ifs and ands. And like, I know a lot of you guys have said if you guys could go back in time. So if we could go back in time, maybe we would have got the house that was 20,000 more, that was already finished and big enough. Or maybe we would have finished our upstairs when the estimate was only 30,000. But unfortunately, we live and learn. We live and learn from our lessons, and we can't go back in time. So we'll just have to kind of play it by ear from now.
Oh, awesome. Well, keep enjoying your house. And Todd, down in the corner of my screen, tell us about your first house you bought.
When I first got married, we lived out in the country house. So we didn't necessarily buy that house, but we lived there. The funny story about the house I bought was I took my dad to see some townhouses in Breezewood. And back then it was HUD houses. I think they called them HUD houses. And we found one and we made a bid on it, but we didn't get it. It was like $53,000. And, 3-bedroom, no garage, but, nice little lot. We didn't get it. And then like the next day, the realtor called me and she said, oh, there's another house that's up for 55. It's not on the market yet, but you have a good opportunity to get that one because you're already approved. So I went to see it on my own. And then I made a bid on it and got it. And my wife never saw it. I never took my dad to see it, nothing. So, we bought it for 55. The payment was $435 a month. And we lived there for 5 years. So I think it was like 95 to 2000, I think, something like that. And then we lived there for 5 years. It was a nice house. The issue when you're living in the townhouse wasn't far from Sam's house. Wasn't far from Sam's house that he bought, the townhouse. It was a nice house. It was just that when you're living in the townhouse, Todd was born in 2001. And so we lived there to 2001. He only lived there for a year. But the issue is the neighbors kept changing, because people would buy those houses and rent them out. So you never know who you're living next to. And it was, like I said, I wish I would have never sold it like everybody said. But we did end up selling it for $89,000. And then we moved to Falcon Ridge for 1 year. And the issue was when we had that first house, we didn't think we were going to sell it that fast, but we did. And we had to find a place quick. And my realtor back then is a lady named Penny. She found that house. It's near
where Melissa lives now.
Where Melissa lives now. And
Smoke
it was
tree.
and all that. And we kind of rushed into it. And because we didn't realize we bought it, it was upstairs, downstairs. But Todd got older, he couldn't stay upstairs. His room was downstairs. And the funny thing is that my first townhouse, Joe lived with me, and my second house, Joe lived with me. So I remember Joe living with me, but he didn't bring no friends, just Joe.
Yeah, Sophie didn't have any friends going through some issues.
No, I think I know the friend Sophie's talking about. I think he worked with my wife, one of them at least. But it was interesting.
That's what we brought this.
Sam's house, yeah. Oh yeah, I remember this house. And then your realtor helped you. Your side realtor helped you find a house in Salem Fields, and then your real realtor helped you buy that house in Salem Fields, and that's where you're at now, right?
Yes, I've only had the three houses: the Breezewood, Falconridge, and this house, and we lived here since 2003. The thing is, I wasn't here originally. You and Sam had bought contracts, got the houses. I came in at the house was already being built, but the financing fell through, so I got what I got, and I got this house in Salem Fields like after, because we sold our house in Falconridge because we wanted to move here, and we had to wait. So one of the things I would never recommend is selling a house and then renting it back from the person you sold to, because that guy drove us crazy at the time.
Yeah.
We sold it to him, then we had to put all this money in the bank escrow and then pay his payment until they built this house, and then he drove us. Luckily, Penny worked all that out, because if not, I would probably went to jail for murder for that guy. He drove.
Yeah. Well, good, man. Well, let's get to Sophie real fast since he's sitting over here. So, if you remember buying your first house?
Yeah, I think 07.
07? Yeah. And what'd you pay for it? You remember?
$222.
$222 you paid for it. It was a split for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long did you keep that house?
A year.
And then you haven't owned anything else since?
Nope.
Would you ever consider buying another house?
Later. Something with land.
Yeah. Definitely not a subdivision, huh? Yeah, because Sophie has too many toys to be living next to any neighbors, So anything about that house, that was like some kind of government deal, wasn't it?
First time home buyer, where they put the down payment and they gave you money up front to buy the house.
Yeah. So the market was pretty tough back then, so they had to help the buyers.
Right.
Oh, well, good. So yeah, Sophie would definitely need probably about at least a minimum 5 to 10 to 15 acres, so he don't make any neighbors mad with all the stuff he does, right? Yeah. So, all right. Well, I'll tell you real quick. My house story. We bought our first house. We got married in 2000. We lived with our parents for 3 years in the basement, and then we saved money up and we bought our first house in Salem Fields, and in 2003. At that time, the market was getting hot. This is a new subdivision, so every 3 or 4 houses they sold, they rose the prices up $10,000. So we jumped on a house, and the interest rates are kind of high then. So we did what we called did 2 different loans. We did an ARM because the rates were cheaper on the ARM at that time, and then we did an 80-20 loan because we didn't want to pay any PMI. And so they gave us 2 loans, one for 80% and one for 20% of the house. So that way we had 2 different loans, and didn't have to pay PMI, and we had an ARM. And at that time, it was kind of good to get the ARM because then the rates started coming down. So the ARM rates never really went up. It kept on going down until we could refinance and get a locked-in mortgage. And we kept that house for, I think, 18 years. In Salem Fields, so at one point 4 of us lived in the Salem Fields at one time, which is really cool. And then we built the house we're in now, and that was right before COVID, so the market was just changing. And we did what Faisal did, a construction loan. We bought the land, got a construction loan, and then they converted it into a regular mortgage once you finish the house. And the rates were really good at that time. And I think I'm locked in at a 2.3% interest rate. And so it's crazy to think like not that long ago we had interest rates under 3%, 2.5%, and people were able to buy more home for what they get because of the interest rates. And now the interest rates are really high, and hopefully we'll see what happens after November's elections, if the interest rates come back down or not. So I think that's another thing that we really don't consider is what the interest rates are, because if you buy a $400,000 house at a 2% interest rate versus a 6% interest rate, it's a big difference. And then I don't think a lot of people realize about the PMI insurance, and how much that affects people. It's just crazy how I think society works is if somebody doesn't have the best credit or doesn't have the money down, we charge them more money for something. So if you don't have enough money down to put down on a house, we charge you PMI, or we give you a bigger interest rate.
So just let me tell you, the PMI is because it's insured by either Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or the government. So that's just an insurance. It's just like when you buy insurance for your car or anything like that, you're paying a percentage. So the PMI is just a way in case you default on your loan, that they'll have to come back in and fix up your house and then sell it.
So, no, I definitely understand. I understand, but I just think that because somebody doesn't have 20% to put down, that we charge them more money to buy a house doesn't make sense in society. You know what I mean? Like,
right? No, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. But that's why doing like you did a 80-20 loan, saved you almost probably $300-400 a month in payments because of the PMI. Average PMI right now for like a 450 house is $300 or more right now.
Wow. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys being with us, and I appreciate all our siblings being here today. At least Shadia and Melissa didn't fight too much today. They were fighting before the podcast went on. They got it out before the podcast.
So next Sunday we'll have a surprise.
Well, no, yeah.
Next Sunday we'll have a surprise for you guys.
You're gonna have a surprise for us? Oh, yeah. I know what it is. Yeah. I already know. I already know about the train ride. The gossip. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, hey, we're going to go walking here in a little bit. So anybody wants to join us, we're going to probably leave the house here in a little bit and going to go walking about 4 miles today. So let me know if anybody wants to go. Other than that, we got season 2, episode 1 already live. It's on everything, and we just posted it on Facebook. And every Sunday we'll get the new episode out. So thank you very much, and have a great day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
We extend our heartfelt gratitude for joining our journey, immersing yourself in our tales, and becoming a part of our family. Stay connected with us by following at Abed11 on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Keep the adventure alive with the Abed11 Chronicles, where 10 voices unite to share a lifetime of stories. We are looking forward to seeing you next week.
Hold on one sec, guys. Let me hit the end.
Hey, I'm going to play poker if anybody wants to come.
Oh, yeah.